Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the studio. I'm your co-host, Noelle Fakori, and we are in for a treat. Joining me is Mariana Atencio, national correspondent for MSNBC and NBC News. Mariana, welcome. We're so excited to have you.
Come here.
I have to tell you, your energy is like off the charts. I could feel it during your presentation. I felt it in your TED Talk, which I've watched probably way too many times.
Thank you,
ever need a
Noelle.
stunt double, I'm happy to be your stunt double. But I'm just so excited to spend some time with you and really focus in on you and your core message. So for the viewers at home, tell us a little bit around what you represent and a little bit around what your passion and your purpose is.
So I am a forever immigrant. I always say that because I am originally from Venezuela, and I have worked very hard to make a space for myself in this great country, but without ever forgetting where I came from. So I call myself, and I heard my friend Eva Longoria say this, a part of the 200% club. I'm 100% Venezuelan, 100% Latina, and 100% American. And I represent that, a human bridge. I want to, through my storytelling and my news stories, be a bridge of understanding between people and generations and cultures and social media and traditional media.
Oh my gosh, well, you're doing incredible job at it. And I love that you bring up that you're a storyteller. And I feel like that's one of the core things that defines you. It's not just about being a journalist, but a storyteller. And in the talent space, we often are also in a position to be storytellers, whether it's to people about our company, to the people internally. So I'd love to learn a little bit around your journey crafting your skill around storytelling.
So stories are essential to our collective history. I said it in the speech, if you think about from the clay tablets of Mesopotamia 5,000 years ago to a tweet by the president, it is the power of a message, spoken or written or recorded. When you're recruiting people, it is your brand's message that has the power to last a lifetime. So when we are crafting that story, I think that's one of the things we have to think about is, what do I want to leave behind as someone who recruits, as someone who has a brand out there? And I go back to, it's not about the what you do or how you do it, it's about the why. So your purpose, what is your purpose? That has to be the key to telling your story. What is your main intention with that story, the purpose behind that story? And then finding ways in which you can showcase values that people will adhere to, right? That is important, so that people will say, I can see myself in that company. I can see myself in Noelle. I can see myself working.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm so curious if I could pick your brain a little bit on the journey you've been on at crafting your story, your brand, your legacy. How long has that taken you to really figure out who you are and what you stand for? And then how have you just been building it into this incredible representation that you are today?
So in the beginning, obviously, especially coming here as an immigrant, I came here on a scholarship, but it was the recession. I didn't have a green card. I got laid off from the first job I ever had in journalism in the United States. So you tend to see someone like me, oh, she has it all figured out, but it's taken a lot. I have also been there where you are, not knowing if I had a story, and if once I figured out, okay, this is my story, will people actually want to listen to it? But the key is to know that everyone has a story worth sharing. Right? That's the first thing. And the second thing is, so what makes the threads and fibers of your story, right? What is sort of your purpose? And I found that in my pitfalls, in finding my identity as an immigrant, that's what I want to do, is give a voice to people who want to feel represented when they see me on screen. And it took 10 years. 10 years since the day that I got laid off from a newspaper in Brooklyn, New York, buying a camera, going up through digital, Spanish, then crossing over to say, this is who I am, and this is a story that I have to tell.
I love that. And it sounds like it's definitely been an evolution and a journey. So for people who are either just starting that journey or they're in the middle and they feel a little bit stuck, what advice do you have for people to start to craft that purpose, that passion, that message?
So I think the first thing is acknowledging that you have a story worth telling. What I said in the beginning, so many of us don't even think that we have sort of the visibility to say, my story is worth sharing, right? So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, and this is actually an exercise that I did, and because a mentor of mine said, write your story on paper. Just start writing.
Simple as that.
just as simple as I was born here. This is what my childhood was like. By the end, I had like a 10-page thing, right?
Yeah.
Then you start to see what are the themes to your life. And also, what are the moments where you made a pivot, where there was a juncture of growth? And these are things that can come from positive or negative experiences.
Of course, yeah.
And when I wrote Perfectly You, the book that I came out with this year.
Congratulations.
One of the biggest challenges was, how do I start my story, right? So I actually did the same thing. I went back to that exercise, which I encourage you to do at home, and I wrote a list of everything good that had happened in my life and everything bad that had happened in my life. And then I said, okay, here's an incident in the bad column that I had almost like eliminated from my mind, which was the day that I got robbed at gunpoint in my native Venezuela. Okay, it was a traumatic experience, so I had really forgotten about it, never spoken about it publicly. And I said, this was a juncture because this was the moment where I decided to leave my home country in search of a better life in the United States. So that's how I start my book. That is chapter 1 of my story.
How interesting.
Write a list of positive and negatives, things that have happened to you, and you will see where those junctures were and where you really grew as a person.
Wow. Speaking of growth, one thing that I love about you is in the stories you tell, it's not usually always about you. It's actually, in fact, a lot of the people who have inspired and touched your story along the way. I know your sister, your dad that you've mentioned. Like, it's so moving to hear when you bring other people into the story and share that connection point. So I'd love to hear a little bit around currently who's really inspiring to you as you continue this journey. You have your book out. You probably have a lot of other things coming up. Who's continuing to inspire you, whether they're currently close to you or it's a more aspirational relationship?
You know, what has been just eye-opening for me is covering this up-and-coming generation of people in this country. I just came back from covering the strikes and rallies for climate change in America and around the world. And these are teens that I have been following for like a year now. And now that this movement has exploded, like, obviously Greta Thunberg, but it's Isra Hizri out of Minnesota, who's a Rep. Ilhan Omar's daughter. It's Carla Stefan, another girl who's leading the movement out of DC. Like, all of these young girls, Haven Coleman, like, they're just so unapologetic about wanting to change the world. They're like, yeah, we can do it. And it starts with one school strike, one Friday. We may get like 5 people here and 5 followers on social media, but we're going to grow it into this thing because they're not afraid to take risks. And I think that I'm at that point in my life where that energy of somebody younger who is willing to take the risk and just using the tools like social media that is around them is so, so inspiring. And they're going to lead the way. They're going to make a change.
It's so wild thinking about how different it is. So, like, even in your last 10 years, you must have seen this entire shift in terms of how storytelling is done.
Enormous.
Who these leaders and influencers are.
And also the way that people of color, immigrants in this country are viewed. You know, when I came to the United States, I remember when I was studying at Columbia University, where people are like, you're going to have to cut your hair to make it in broadcasting. You're going to have to pronounce your name like Mariana and not Mariana. And in the past 10 years, I've seen that explosion of the demographics are changing. We want the screen to be more reflective of the entire country. But then it falls on you, the people doing the recruitment, like the people that are attracting talent, to make that talent want to work in your company and to make them feel like they belong and that they can be their authentic selves at the table.
So let's talk about that, because we spend a lot of time at work. Work tends to define and differentiate how we feel about ourselves, our confidence, and beyond. So what advice would you have for team leaders or talent leaders in terms of how they can create an environment where those diverse perspectives and individuals can be comfortable and authentically themselves? So
we need to create environments where new voices aren't morphed into existing ones. So when you go back to, you know, even when I started doing news in English, right, there is a tendency to be like, oh, you cover Latino stories, but we don't want to pigeonhole you. We want you to cover like everything else. Like, oh, let's cut your hair. Your eyebrows could be a little lighter. Why don't you dress like so-and-so? And these are subtle things. But then if I had followed that, right, before I knew it, I was going to be literally not myself, like
Right.
unrecognizable to
Right.
myself.
Yeah.
And there was something in me, because I think it's because it was all these young people were following me, like, this is a win for us, like seeing you there, seeing myself there, that I was like, I can't change before them. Like, what's the point of having me in this network if I'm not bringing diverse stories and the stories of my community?
Yeah.
So I think for team leaders, it's subtle things that we think may not be so important, like the pronunciation of a name or like the way you dress. Like, it's like menial things.
Yeah.
But I always say, like, these are small ripple effects that
yeah.
later turn into larger representation icons at companies.
And it tends to be invisible, right? A lot of times we don't understand the experience that someone's having on the inside until it kind of manifests into a much larger, sometimes negative way.
Absolutely.
So I'm curious to hear from you, because you found your voice and you are becoming a voice for so many others, but for somebody who doesn't quite have their voice found just yet, like, what would your advice be to them, or where could they start?
So I think that a great thing is to find role models.
Yeah.
Right? When I was, in the beginning of my career, I used to search, and LinkedIn was great for that, right?
Yes.
Because I used to search for companies to see Latinos that were making it, immigrants that were making it at the network level. And it shows you that there is a path forward, right?
Yes.
And I think that once you find those role models and you say, okay, if I could put all these people in my team or in my bucket, like, who would they be? You
Right.
know? And I literally, like, I would cut out faces of people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I would
like
put them
vision
in like a
boarding it.
vision board. Like, my
Interesting.
vision board, has included people from Malala to Cristiana Mampur to Sofia Vergara.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want Sofia energy.
Yeah.
Like, she's so
Check.
on.
You've got it. Check and check.
And the more petite friend.
Doing it.
But anyway, that's literally like how I did it, is
Yeah.
finding role models, of feeding off their energy. And then once you do that, you sort of start thinking about, like, what is unique that you bring to the table.
I love that. So you obviously have a very visible role. And with that, I'm curious, a fun random question. How do you start your day to get into the right headset and spirit to always bring this energy that's so contagious, I just can't even stand it?
So I write about it in Perfectly You
Oh,
in the
amazing.
book, because, I could wake up. First of all, sometimes I forget. I'm like, where am I?
Yeah.
Like, what are we covering? Like, I can wake up in the middle of a hurricane, in the middle of an earthquake.
Real
Like,
talk.
those are the
Yeah.
stories that we're covering. And I found out some time ago that you can sync up your alarm clock to a song. So for me, it's always the music that I open my eyes to, right?
Yes.
So it's kind of like your theme song.
Yes.
So I encourage you to do this at home.
Okay, I have to know. Your theme song.
Mine is Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles,
What a
right?
beautiful one.
I wanted to do like Gloria Stefan, like, come on, baby, conga. And then it was like too jarring to wake up to.
You, like,
And I'm
jumped
like,
out
I
of
need
bed.
Here Comes the Sun. Doo-doo-doo. It's like a crescendo situation happening.
And then on the commute in, we got to get the Gloria in when we're ready to rock and roll.
Exactly. So I always wake up to a song, and then I say to myself, like, no matter the clouds that may come my way today, like, here comes the sun, is already gonna be a good day.
I love that. It brings a spirit, it brings a mantra, but also just like this personality and this force that you absolutely can't question.
Oh,
it's
Noelle,
incredible.
you give me that energy too.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm just so excited that we got some time to chat. I know the viewers at home are getting so much out of this, and even just the tactical tips of starting somewhere. Write your story, look for the themes, pull it through, find role models. Like, these are all things that anyone can do. So thank you for sharing your gift and your talent and your message with us. I know one thing, though, that you did skip out on, which I can't thank you enough for, is I heard that you skipped out on this fancy Emmy party to hang out with us at this event.
I did.
So we just don't deserve you. So
No,
I
you
want to
do,
say
and I'm
thank
so
you
happy to be
on
here.
behalf of all of us. And
Thank
I know that you skipped out on a pretty sweet swag bag, which is why I did my best to pull together something that
my
we do really
God,
well, which is
no.
also swag.
Oh, I know.
You're not going to find a
Thank
new
you.
iPhone in here, but you're going to
Thank
find
you.
some really good stuff that's
Listen,
not just a LinkedIn water
my
bottle.
purpose was to be here, to talk to you, to connect with all of you. We're creating meaningful connections. And it was an honor to be nominated, but I'm honored to be here with you today. And thank you. I'm going to check out the swag
Thank
bag.
you. There we go. Congratulations on all of your success.
you. Yay.
Thank you
Oh
so
my
much
God,
for
this is
those
so
of you
exciting.
who are
Heavy.
joining in. And tune in for more great content from Talent Connect 2019, and we'll see you soon.